This is quite an amusing sequence, actually. An interview with Stephen Batchelor concerning his Buddhist experience. My name is Shogaku Zenshin Roshi, or Stephen Eckhart Musgrave. I was a Zen teacher in the Soto tradition of Japan and hold the title Roshi, which is Master. I can truthfully say after reading Mr. Batchelor's book that he has absolutely no real profound understanding of Buddhism at all. It's not unusual. People can spend years studying something and never grasp it. He certainly doesn't understand the doctrine of rebirth. He hasn't the slightest idea what that's all about. Unfortunately, he is of a scientific materialist bent. It's not unfortunate that he has that particular inclination, but it's unfortunate that he also chose to join a Buddhist tradition which is steeped in magic and tantra, etc. These would seem to be a very peculiar combination, to say the least. And it's no wonder that he came out of it lacking. Now the question is, can you be an atheist Buddhist? Well, you can't be anything else because Buddhism doesn't concern itself with theism. To say I confess to being an atheist Buddhist is like saying I confess to being a butcher that cuts meat. Well, butchers cut meat, that's what they do. And Buddhists don't involve themselves with theism unless they have some strange form of Buddhism that they've invented themselves, which is quite common in the West. Now, one of the things that Buddha did teach was that while he gave a general guideline from his experiences of how to get to enlightenment, that we still had to take that and apply our own experiences and knowledge to it and not accept it dogmatically. So if he found a tradition which tells him that he has to accept it dogmatically, well, then there's something wrong with that tradition and something wrong with him for not doing a little more research on the subject and finding that it isn't necessary to swallow everything in Buddhist traditions with all the accretions that have occurred over thousands of years to maintain a serious Buddhist practice. And I'm not putting down Tibetan Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhism is a cultural thing, and it's not my business to say anything negative about it. It would not be amenable to me because of the nature of my disposition towards things like magic and self-transformation through magic, etc. Now, that being said, Buddhism does have a transcendental ground. That's been worked into the very foundation of Buddhism. And if he had read the Abhidharma, or if he had been a Yogacharan and read the teachings of the Alaya Vijnana, which is one of the major texts of the mind-only school, he would have a better understanding for Buddhism and what it actually means. Scientific materialists have crept into the Buddhist tradition, trying to believe that they can hold on to their materialist worldview, and most of them are advocates of scientism, that science is going to answer all the world's problems, which it won't. Because it has its limits. For one thing, it's a linear tradition, which is based on examining things through cause and effect. And from a Buddhist perspective, everything is interdependent, a doctrine of co-interdependent origination. And the doctrine of co-interdependent origination, also from that arises the doctrine of emptiness, which means that ontologically, nothing is a complete isolated entity that exists outside of our cognition. You might say, distilled down to the essence, Buddhism is a doctrine that says that mind and the way we perceive things shapes reality. So the material world is contingent upon our mind. And there is a little bit of parallel here between quantum physics. I wouldn't go too far with that, but there are some parallels. Certainly, as a scientific materialist, one should be aware of the problems with the terms energy and matter themselves, which are issues which the quantum physicists struggle with. And of course, and then there's the hard problem of consciousness, as philosopher of mind David Chalmers calls it, which science or even philosophy has come up with no answer for. So now his problem with reincarnation, and in Buddhism we would refer to it primarily as rebirth, is from moment by moment we change. The whole universe changes moment by moment. All aggregate things come apart. That's the teachings of Buddhism. So am I the same person I was when I was 6 years old? No, I was not physically, not mentally, not in any other respect. We would say that is much rebirth as changing from a continuum of consciousness in this body to a continuum of consciousness which changes due to our karma. And that's basic Buddhist philosophy, is that the karmic stream of any given continuum of consciousness shapes future manifestations of it. And the actual transition from this state to the next is not any more radical than from the time I was a child until I am now an old man. That's just basic Buddhist philosophy. Now, is there empirical evidence for something like reincarnation? Well, people would make an argument that there is. Certainly Ian Stevenson, the late Ian Stevenson, University of Virginia, did. He presented some interesting cases. I don't think they prove it, but they're certainly suggestive of it. Now, the point is that scientific materialists will not examine anything which might threaten their worldview. So Mr. Batchelor wasted his time in Buddhism. He didn't have the temperament or mind for it, except insofar as it produced an income with some well-written books, though not well thought out, that's for certain. And I wish him well making money, but he needs to cease referring to himself as anything like a Buddhist. I myself don't even call myself a Buddhist any longer. I'm a student of the Buddha Dharma, but the term Buddhist, just like every other term, rationalist, Christian, whatever, tends to confine one into a mindset that doesn't allow for easy access to the truth. It tends to limit you, and as von Willard Quine, the 20th century philosopher, said, our beliefs are all held in a great belief net where everything is interconnected. At any rate, anytime Mr. Batchelor would like to discuss this with me or debate it, I'd be happy to address him. I'd even go as far as to wear my beautiful Zen Master robes, which I rarely wear. But I was also a theater major at college, as well as a philosophy major. At any rate, Mr. Batchelor, as we say in the South, y'all full of beans.